Marty Olsen, your host, and I'm delighted to welcome back my good friend and yours, Juan Roman.
Thanks for having me, Marty. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, and this gentleman is so well versed in so many topics. I'm not sure where we should start. We could discuss some of his visits on Lee Elsey's program, and often, but not always, you seem to get asked to represent religious topics when you're on his program. But you're also a football guy, a former head football coach at Illinois High and player at Central Connecticut. I know you like to discuss politics at different levels as well. So I figured between those broad topics, we'll find something to carve up an hour.
Well, I would say this. Lee has definitely presented me as some type of biblical scholar that I'm not. But I definitely have no problem sharing my faith. So that's not a problem. And if I can help anyone in any way hear something, a different point of view biblically, I'm happy to do so. As far as the football stuff, I do love that. Politics, I think that's all pro wrestling. They're all in the same locker room at the end, and it's unfortunately the locker room's getting pretty ugly lately.
Well, what is your take regarding Mr. Kirk? He presents himself as being very religious and family, and that's his primary focus. I think others look at it, he's more religious than, more political than religious, should I say.
Yeah, I will say, depending on what you hear him say at certain times, you can say, oh, this is a great statement, or you can say this is a very inflammatory statement. But in the end, someone was murdered. And it saddens me that anyone being murdered can be celebrated. I just wonder how deprived we're getting or depraved, I should say, we're getting as people. It just has to be something else. And again, whether we say he was killed for his opinions, speaking, freedom of speech and all that, a lot of people have been assassinated for speaking out, maybe not in America as much as in other places, but in America as well. Nothing positive comes out of this. Yes, a movement might build from his death, but in the end, killing people is not the answer.
Well, I would concur. Whether you like him or you don't like him, we all have the right to live.
You would hope, but it's an ugly, ugly scene, and especially in a world that we live in now with social media. It's one thing, it's everything is seen immediately and it's seen repeatedly, and then everybody. It's amazing. It's a lot like sports. 24-hour sports cycle. Now everyone's an expert on sports. I'll give you an example. My first year as head coach, Juan drops back in a passing league 7-on-7, and he throws an interception. And the people outside the fence are, he's staring down his receivers. He's staring down his receivers. No, he's staring at the defender. And if the defender goes here, he's supposed to throw here. If he goes there, he's supposed to throw here. He happened to throw where the defender went. So they're like, oh, you don't even know what our quarterback's read is. You don't know what his progressions are. Just stop talking. And it's the same thing now with all this craziness going on. People all think they know something about something, and because of social media, oh, well, he did it because of this, or he's representing this side and that side. And in the end, we don't know. And it's the strangest
development. I saw it on the internet, therefore it must be right.
Yeah. Well, the thing that really baffles me is how much information is being shared right away. The text message said this, and they're reading the conversation. I can see any attorney his weight in gold going to say, can't get a fair trial. You're reading all this evidence out. You're contaminating any jury pool we could have. It's just a very odd thing, but we're living in an odd world.
Yeah, well, and that is, and I don't know what we can do regarding the social media. When you look at, what used to be our primary source when we were growing up, locally anyway, it was the day paper. And maybe there'll be one LC on some of their local newscasts. I think they, from time to time, would have some talk radio interspersed in there, but the day paper's down to almost nothing.
Well, you said back when we were growing up, so that would be the New London Day.
Well, yeah, I go
It
back to
wasn't
the
the
London
day.
Day.
It wasn't- yes, and
And they changed to the day to try to expand their circulation.
yeah.
So
Well,
our neighbors would buy the paper, so it didn't say New London.
yeah. Again, if that's the reason why you're not buying the paper. Yeah. But and nowadays, unfortunately, what news can you trust? And I hate to say that, but I mean, the only thing, and again, I'm getting back to where I always go, I guess, and I know people will say, well, who wrote the Bible and this and that, but I'm not finding much that I can trust. They're going to tell you what they want to tell you. They're going to not tell you what they don't want you to know, and it's just an unfortunate thing. I mean, in sports, which I love sports because you don't know the outcome of the game. You don't know what's going to happen, in this X amount of time or this many quarters or this many innings. And then you find out guys are gambling on this or guys are using steroids and that. It's just, it's just unfortunate. It's hard to find something that's just pure. And when you do, I guess enjoy it because it's unfortunate. It doesn't seem to last very long.
Well, I'm going to change gears on that note. We may get back into this, but I mean, you're a guy whose boys went to Yale, Ivy Leaguers,
Yeah.
played football in the Ivy League,
Yeah.
and played well, I might add. But the Ivy League's making a pretty big shift this year
Yes, they are.
in that they are now the first place team in the league will qualify for the NCAA tournament at that level. And this is brand new after, since 1956, that's when the Ivy League was formed. That's a long time. I guess that's
69 years, yeah.
69 years or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And how
it?
that may impact the Ivy League in terms of the recruitment, in terms of scheduling. I mean, up until now, if there were ties in the Ivy League, everybody got a prize.
Right.
Last year they had a four-way tie. Everybody gets a banner to hang up at the stadium.
Ivy League champs.
And Columbia got one last year, which was the first one since 1961.
That's great. Good for them. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out, who would actually qualify for the playoffs bid. I guess it would be like who beat who or some type of point differential. But again, it's another example of, and I think I may have told you before, Hunter, I think it was his freshman year. He came back home and we were watching the 1AA or whatever they call it, championship playoffs. And he said, I would not want to be playing right now with all of the schoolwork that I have.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of, oh, hey, you're an athlete, turn that in later at the Ivy League. It's like, no, it's due and it's due now. And obviously now in this day and age with technology, you can send things at like 11:59, it's due by this day or whatever.
Put it on your phone.
Yeah, but I remember his first, he was excited. He had as a freshman, he dressed and went out to Maine, and that's a long ride, and stayed in a great hotel and all that, but he had to get something done, and it had to be done. There was no like, I'm gonna sleep on the bus. It was, I gotta get this work done. So that part of it is still gonna be there. I would imagine that they're not going to lower any academic standards just because now they're playing in the playoffs. But it's going to be interesting because there's some good ball out there. One of their former teammates, Foye Oluokun, led the NFL in tackles, I would say 3 years out of the last 5 seasons. So, I mean, he's had a great professional career, and he's a guy that, he got drafted. But there are a few other guys that played with the boys who were in the league. Matter of fact, Jackson Haas caught a pass the other night in the Buffalo game against the Ravens. And I think it was in the winning drive. I fell asleep, so I can't tell exactly when it happened. I'm not making ends of any of these games lately. I don't know why.
I haven't done that for quite a while.
Yeah. So here we are, the Ivy League, and we'll see what happens with that.
I just wonder if it'll conjure up a little bit more interest maybe in the schools. I don't know. I mean, the fan bases. I enjoy Ivy League sports in general. But football doesn't draw well. I mean, the Yale-Harvard game draws well, and that's about like the only game that draws well.
Yale-Harvard, Yale-Princeton, that's when you'll see the Yale Bowl fill up. And, and again, it's one of those things whereas there is a little bit of, hey, we're not here for that until they win. When they win the Ivy League championship, everybody shows up. All of the, big wigs are taking pictures and all that. But it's like anything. Everybody, I learned this in high school. We win, you lose. When you win, everybody's there in front of the camera. Everybody wants a ring, all that. When you lose, you lost. So that's just the nature of the beast, but it is what it is.
Well, winning cures a lot of evils, as they say. But I'm curious. I mean, I have been. Well, it's a Yale Bowl by far the most, but I go to Brown. I enjoy Brown. I enjoy Harvard Stadium to visit. But all three of them seem to draw a little bit better when they're playing other Ivy League schools. And if they're playing, like this week, Yale opens up with Holy Cross. And I'm not expecting that they'll have 5,000-6,000 people in the bowl, which holds 60,000.
And it's tough. I mean, because if I remember correctly, now that my kids aren't playing, I don't follow as closely, but I don't think Yale has played a game yet. This will be their first game.
This is their first game, and it'll be
Holy Cross is fourth? Yeah. So I knew it was at least their third. And so, it's always the same. Yale comes out on fire. They would get a big lead, and then Holy Cross sometimes walks them down. So hopefully that won't be the case this week. I mean, because, you always want to see your son's alma mater do well, but it's a tough game, and even that. Now, how is the opportunity to play in the postseason going to affect maybe how they schedule from now on? I mean, all these things could change. Yeah, and I tell you right now, I mean, NIL.
Now, is the Ivy going to get involved with that, or are they just going to lose players to it?
But guess what? If they get involved, they're not going to lose at it. There's a whole lot of money in the Ivy League, and if they want to get involved in NILs, and they want to get the best player, financially they can do it. And if you could offer an Ivy League education and a great NIL package, why would a kid not go there? Because that was what we were told one of the reasons why they don't give scholarships is because if they gave scholarships, who wouldn't go there? Now it's like, well, if you give NILs, it's like giving a scholarship, and it'll be interesting to see. And as I said, I'm not involved in it, so I don't know the ins and outs and intricacies of NIL. But there are enough Yale alumni, if they want to make sure somebody shows up, money will show up.
Yeah. Well, a year or so ago, Yale lost a basketball player to Michigan.
And he got drafted by the Nets.
Yeah. He's a 7-footer. He played his freshman year at Yale, and then he went into the portal and went to Michigan the next year. That was last year.
It had a great, that was when they won their first round game in the Ivy League, when he was on the team. They made it, I think they made it back to the tournament this year, but they didn't win their first round game. And Wolf played for Michigan and did well. The thing is this, there are athletes at all levels now. It's just a matter of how many, big time athletes are there. You go to Central Connecticut, their offensive line is going to go 6'5", 290 to 310. But the thing is they've got about 7 of those guys. And then you go to Alabama and they've got 12 of those guys, and they run faster and they jump high. There's other things separate them. But it's one of those things to me, whereas if they want to take that to that next level in the Ivy League with football, they can. And I'm sure the same way like in basketball, when they win, a tournament game, that's a big deal to them. And they're,
I'll tell you, the coach down at Jones, he's done a terrific job. He took a program that was going nowhere fast.
Yeah, he's done a great job.
Turned it into power in the league, and they hold themselves well in the NCAA tournament. I mean, they may not get to the semifinals or the Final Four, but they're highly competitive.
Right.
Capable of winning a game or two.
It's great to see them do so, and
and they draw better. You see, when you're winning, people come out.
Right. And, you know, and it's weird. I remember when Hunter first started, he started 10 days after he graduated high school because he had to go down for football. And it's like all of a sudden you got the peek behind the curtain of an Ivy League situation. And you see all those things and see that it's a great thing to see what a school like that can do for you as far as just giving you exposure to things that you're not going to be exposed to any other way. You know, you've got a Prince down the hallway in your freshman dorm. It's like, you kidding me? You know, when Hunter, I think I mentioned it before, I don't want to be redundant, but when Hunter graduated, when they were calling out the graduates' names, one of them was a Rockefeller. And she used an alias for 4 years. So no one knew she was maybe her close friends, but Hunter didn't know. He was like, what? And we're all sitting there like, Rockefeller, who's this? But that's the kind of situation, that's the exposure you're having in those places and people you're getting to know. And that's what they always say about those circles, it's the network.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that permeates actually down all the way, but
Yeah.
that's one of the benefits of an Ivy League education across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, all the schools. I mean, I think Yale and Harvard, Princeton maybe get more notoriety, but the other schools are still top shelf.
Right, and you know what, and it doesn't even have to be Ivy League. The big thing now is, you know, with education, you know, obviously Major was close to trying to play professionally, and he goes out there and he blows out his Achilles tendon and his calf. You know, it ends his career. But he had the education, and he did have the network to fall back on and make phone calls. He didn't want any of my help. He didn't want to talk to anybody that I knew. And I appreciate the people that offered to help him out. But he was, you know, coming off the injury, so I think it was like, I got to do this myself. And he did it, and he got a job, and now he's working for Merrill Lynch as a financial advisor, and he's living down in Chevy Chase, Maryland. But it doesn't have to be Ivy League. But have an education, have something else. I wanted him to go back and talk to the kids at the high school, but as I said, he was just going through it, the injury, and trying to find a new path in life. But I want him to let these kids know, hey, I wanted to be a professional athlete. And I was close to being a professional athlete. And when I got injured, I had an education to fall back on. And whether that education is Central Connecticut or Yale or Sacred Heart or anywhere else, have something else to fall back on, because at some point,
And all the schools have got a networking.
yeah, and at some point you're not going to be able to play anymore. Now, if you've made a crazy amount of money, and again with NIL, that might change a lot of it. You don't hear as many kids saying, I'm going to go pro to take care of my family now. They're like, I'm going to transfer to this school that's giving me more money to take care of my family. But
Some of these guys and gals actually might make more with NIL than
Right.
they will professionally. I think some of the women in particular.
well, and I think, I mean, if you look at a guy, and again, obviously I think he's going to go pro eventually, but Arch Manning, I think he made $4 million his freshman year. He didn't play his freshman year. He made $4 million.
Now,
It's unbelievable.
with this NIL, because I don't know, but are these athletes required to go to school? Or are they professional athletes?
Only the shadow knows that answer, but you know, that's one of those deals whereas in the end, how can you not be a professional athlete?
Well, you're a pro, but as a pro, is there anything that requires you to be a student anywhere in this? And I just don't know. I mean, it's funny. It used to be kind of questioned with scholarships. I mean, with a lot of athletes,
Right.
especially at the bigger programs, that the guys or gals would take cream puff courses, if that, just to keep their
Work
head
study
above water.
jobs where they're watching the stadium and make sure it doesn't move. But I know Juan Roman, the college student, if I had an NIL deal, there would have been one heck of a party going on at CCSU. I was not always a Christian, and but it's one of those deals where, if nothing else, are they pro athletes? I know, but if you're making more money than your coach, and a lot of these kids are making more money than the head coaches at these big time schools, they're making tons of money, but there are kids making more money than probably some of these assistant coaches for sure. I mean, Arch Manning's making $4 million.
I can't imagine.
I can't believe his quarterback coach is making
even
that.
At a school like Texas, I can't imagine that the assistant coaches are in seven figures, or if they are, it's very low. The money's not a faucet you can just turn on and let it run forever.
Not on the books, you know. But again, there's a lot of money out there, especially in Texas, and it just comes down to what it means to you. I mean, the team that spent the most money last year won the national championship. Ohio State won the national championship. They spent the most money. So people are going to see that. They're going to say, hey, we got to spend more money.
Yeah. Well, I know years ago, a gentleman that we both know, and he went to Central. He's closer to me in age than you, defensive lineman. And he was telling me that, at least at that time, that if Central wants to be competitive, they're going to be looking at junior colleges to bring in players. And if they're more interested in having a more Notre Dame look, where the classes are more important, that you won't have the JUCOs coming in, but we may not have the best team. I don't know how true that is, but that was just one man's opinion many moons ago. And now you throw in the curveball of the NIL.
Well, COVID and NIL, transfer portal, it's crazy. I mean, and not to mention, forget about this, the college level, at the high school level. Kids are reclassifying, going to prep schools, doing all these things. So you're getting kids who maybe would have been 18 coming out of high school, now they're 19. I mean, I'm trying to remember who it was, but it was a basketball player who was 21 when he got drafted, but he only played 1 year of college sports. But he came out as if he had been in school for 4 years, age-wise, but he was only 1 year 1 year college ball. And even Mage, his closest friend on the team, another tight end, was in his year, but was Hunter's age. So Hunter's 2 years older than Mage. So this kid did prep school stuff and all that other stuff. And again, people are going to keep doing it because now you're getting to have a man playing against boys. And that's why you got to be a real special high school athlete to get recruited out of high school and brought into a big-time program. Because no one's saying, bring in that 210-pound linebacker, we'll put some weight on him. They're going to go get me a guy in the portal. Go get me a guy, who I can pay for.
Who's ready.
Right. And unfortunately, it kills opportunities for kids. Whereas you're not going to hear too many of these stories anymore of the walk-on, because some schools you can't even walk on anymore. So that romanticized part of college sports, you're not going to get a bunch of Rudies anymore.
No, I would think not.
Right.
Now, to your knowledge, has NIL trickled down to Central and the league that they're in, that Northeast Conference?
And the conference, I don't know if we can really say it's NIL, but I know they will pay some kids some money. I don't know where that money's coming from. When Mage,
because that conference they've got a few new schools in it.
Yeah, I know when Mage finished up at Yale and he thought he had a year eligibility left, he looked at some of those schools because he's wanting to go and be the man, play a year and get out of there, work on his master's. And one of the coaches said, yeah, we're going to give him this. No, the coach said a number each month. And Carrie, my wife, said, we've got to pay that? They were like, no, we're going to give that to him. We were like, oh, wow, okay. That was the first time we had ever heard of him receiving cash. It was like, oh, wow. That's not bad. Of course, like a dad, son, don't spend that money. When you leave, he's probably like, yeah, what would you do? Throw a heck of a party, but
yeah,
no.
Well, get that new car you always wanted.
Yeah. But so it'll be interesting. I don't know. Again, it comes down to alumni support. How much money can your alumni generate? I mean, the Syracuse brothers have been so great to Central Connecticut. It's incredible. I can only imagine. I mean, every time there's some type of fundraiser, they're going to them. Scott Pioli has done a lot to donate to the school. But if you don't have 100 of those guys, like some of these universities do, that's why I said, like, if the Ivy League decides we really want to push this, they're going to push it. It's going to happen. So.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I'm pleased to see the Ivies stepping in with football because they participate in the tournaments and national championships in every other sport, men and women, and have been for decades.
Yeah.
So they're finally letting football into the dance. And the schools are proud when their teams do well. It's not like, well, we're hoity-toity and go to class. We don't care. They wrap their arms around the athletes and they're excited with the positive response that they get internally and beyond.
As you said,
Yale didn't turn down the hockey championship in 2013.
No, but everybody loves a winner, and when you're winning, yeah. I mean, didn't they win lacrosse too one year? I mean, I think they won it while the boys were there. It's as I said, we win, you lose. That's how it's going to be. That's how it is in high school. New London High School wins the championship. We won. Everybody's running around. I remember, on the front, we're number one in the window. And if you lose, you guys stink, there's this or that. No one says we lost. They don't say that. It's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Whalers and our alma mater, they opened up on the 11th last week with a tough one on the road at Berlin and got spanked pretty good. I don't know, are you following these guys relatively closely, or?
No, I wouldn't say closely, but I mean, I know some stuff. I mean, I stopped coaching so I could watch my kids play, and I thought it was very important that I step away. I didn't go to any games probably for the first couple years after I retired because I didn't want to be asked any questions in the stands. Don't second guess, none of that. Didn't want to do it. And so now, even now, yes, if I can offer any type of assistance, as far as if you want to talk football, if you need a phone number, a contact, I'm more than happy to do that. But, if I wanted to still be coaching, I'd still be coaching. And when I stepped away, I stepped away. And honestly, I'm concerned not just for New London High School, I'm concerned for high school sports. Because as I said, between the prep schools and this and that, everything else going on, it's hard pressed. It's going to be hard to keep a stud athlete in a high school. If you're legit, everybody's going to tell you, hey, come over here. You're going to have more of this. And don't get me wrong, some of it's true. It's easier for a college coach to go to a prep school and see 10 great basketball players versus going to a high school to see one. And see them playing against lesser competition. So I can't argue that point, but I'm just trying to figure out what's gonna be the real motivation to keep kids. I still have, emails from schools asking for Spencer to leave high school. And I was like, I want to raise my own children. So that was my thing, maybe if I had said, yeah, go, maybe that would have changed, opened up more opportunities athletically for her, but she did all right for herself. And it was one of those deals where I love my kids, they're not gonna be here forever, and I'm gonna raise them as long as I can, and then I know how they're being raised. And that was a big thing for me, and actually me, my wife and I. And so that's what we did, but I know there are some young kids that are coming up who are children of kids that I coach or men that I coached. And it's like, these kids are legit, and I don't know. And everybody now, besides the other high schools who are trying to get kids, now you're gonna have prep schools and everything else. There's no more, you live in New London, you're playing at New London. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Well, I don't know when that change was made, but years ago, I mean, if you were gonna change schools, so you had to take a year off. And you'd have to have a family to live with it. I mean, it was, at least technically, those were the rules as I recall them.
Well,
and the way things are now with the portal and stuff, I mean, you just kind of, well, let's see, I'm not so fond of that Coach Roman. He's not playing me enough. Or maybe your dad thinks that I should be getting more playing time, or I'm in the wrong position to shine. So therefore, we're going to go over here where I'm promised that I'll get what I want.
And I want to see if I can remember the word, because it was such a great word. I was speaking with a teacher at the high school today, and he just said that the kids nowadays aren't necessarily as resilient. I think that's what he said, resilient. And I'm not trying to knock on every kid out there, but you don't have to be resilient if everyone else is promising you, hey, come on over here. You don't got, like you said, oh, you don't like that, coach? Come on over here. You don't like that offense? You don't like that defense? Come on over here. And then if you do throw money into it, like with NILs and all that stuff, it's always going to be something else. And as I said, everyone is an expert now. Everybody knows what's best for you. Everybody knows what you should do. And if you don't have sound advice, hopefully from parents, possibly a coach, someone who knows what's going on, it's not easy to navigate. And everybody, and the best part is, it's like college recruiting. Every college coach loves you. I'm telling you, it was amazing when the boys were being recruited. You'd get like a letter from each coach on the staff in one day. Like, really? Like, they must have sit in a room together like, oh, the only thing they didn't do was write hearts and, XOXO on it. So they send this to you, and as soon as you get there now, it's like, okay, they're chewing you out. Wait a minute, you just told me how much you love me. You've been telling me how much you love me for 2 years, and now I get here and you're like treating me like garbage. And coaches will say stuff like, I'll recruit over you. Coaches have said that to people that I know of. And it's like, I thought I was the greatest thing you ever recruited, So they're gonna tell you what you want, but if they can get a kid, and this goes on in high school too, if I tell this kid how great he is, you come here, oh wow, nice to find a kid that's better than him. So now this kid's father's upset because he's not playing as much, and he's chirping, and it gets ugly. It gets ugly. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
I know from discussions I've had with Coach Parker years ago that coaching locally, that he told me was two of the toughest challenges were parents, especially because he's a local guy, mm-hmm. and AAU, which is another, we haven't even plugged into the equation. It's just the tug and pull on the young men and women in terms of what's best for them, and it may not be the best for the local hometown team.
Well, AAU in basketball, I think, and again, I'm not a basketball guy, but Major did play at I guess you would say the highest level of AAU with the EYBL when he played in that league. But, it is what it is. It gets you exposure. I didn't realize how high a level he was playing until I went to one of his tournaments, because his first one was in Houston, and they were like Chicago. So we weren't going to these tournaments. He was just on the team. And then they had one in Massachusetts. We went to it, and I'm in the bathroom, and John Calipari walks in. And then you go out there, and Boeheim is sitting there, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, this is big time. And then, they get to the finals, and they play Mo Bamba, and they lose. But it's like, what the heck, That's when I realized so why wouldn't you go to those things as a coach? You're going to go, even if you want to go see Mo Bamba at a high school, and it's tough because Mo Bamba playing against a bunch of 5'8" kids is not helping anybody. He might look great, but when he's playing against other kids who are good players, now all of a sudden it's like, okay. And now you saw Mo Bamba, but you also saw these other kids. Mm-hmm. So, AAU, I can't knock it. It's just a pain in the behind for a parent. If he wasn't playing EYBL, where they paid for everything, they were Nike sponsored, there's no way I'm paying for my kid to go to Houston and all that stuff. Whereas, the other teams, other levels, you got to pay for everything. You got to pay to stay overnight, and you got to pay for travel and all that. That makes it real tough. I don't know many parents who say they miss AAU. But as far as
how about the parents, they create the team so their kid gets a chance to shine.
Yeah, but that's it. But again, but those are the teams that aren't very good usually. But as far as the parents, dealing with the parents, I took the approach of tell them the truth. You know, yeah, my kid didn't play. Yeah, your kid's not the best at that position because I want to win. If your kid was the best, I'm going to play him. And I think I may have told you this before. A kid transferred in from Stonington, Brendan McNeil, and his father had said something about, yeah, you know, the school he was coming from, they played their favorites. And I said, oh, I play my favorites too. And he kind of looked at me. I said, the guys who do it the best are my favorites. You know, that's how it works. You know, I mean, you're very fond of the guy who runs the fastest, who jumps the highest, who makes all the tackles, makes all the catches. You're going to go fond of that guy. But, you know, and the only time that the guy who does it the best isn't playing, as far as I'm concerned, is when they're just totally out of control. If you playing is making everyone else miserable, and it's not easy to do. So I'll be the first, especially in high school, because you don't have the pool to draw from. But it's tough, but I'll tell you right now, I remember one kid quitting, and when he quit, I tried to hold on to him as long as I could because he was such a phenomenal athlete. And I knew that if he can get to the next level, it might change his life. But he was just hell on wheels to deal with. And so he didn't like something that I had said about his effort in film. So he said, oh, I'm going to quit. So now the guys are chirping, he's going to quit. So, oh, come on, let's go sit down, I'll talk in the office. And he's like, oh, well, I'm just going to go play baseball. Okay, let's go. Let's go to your locker right now. Let's get everything out. Let's go. I'm not going to beg you. It was like it was exactly the feeling I had when I broke up with my college girlfriend. I knew we had to break up, but she initiated it. But as soon as she said it's over, I was like, yep, let's go. Calling up the guys, let's go. We're going out tonight. It was the same type of feeling. Like it was a relief. And so if a kid is going to make your life miserable, I would tell any coach this. No one tries to work with their cancer. They try to get rid of their cancer. And people will say, you shouldn't say that about, but what they don't understand is sometimes there are cancers out there. And you have to just say, hey, that old saying, addition by subtraction. And people, well, you don't ever want to give up on a kid, but you're not giving up on the kid, but at the same time, you can't sacrifice a team. Because that's someone else's kid. Those are a bunch of other kids out there, too.
Sure.
Yeah. So, you know, when parents don't want to hear that, I mean, I would love to sit down and break down film with them. But as I said, you don't know all the assignments. You don't know what your kid was taught. You know, even when people go, oh, that guy, they didn't cover that guy. Were they in cover 2? Were they in cover 3? Were they in cover 4? Were they in man? You don't even know what they were supposed to be doing. So, you know, you have to take a lot of the parental stuff with a grain of salt because sometimes they don't know what they're talking about. Right. So it's tough.
Well, it's with the season starting, we didn't get a chance to cross paths at the opener for Central and UConn. But, Central gave me a little bit of hope there when they had that initial touchdown that maybe they were going to give the Huskies a bit of a game. But UConn was bigger and faster, and I think you might say there's a reason why the Huskies players are there and not at Central.
And again, well, I will say this.
Although UConn lost to Delaware this past weekend.
And I was going to say, you know, one of the things is there are kids at Central that could play at UConn, no doubt. Matter of fact, kid from Central is starting from Maryland right now at left tackle, a New London kid. And I was told by 2 people he's graded out as a top pass blocker in the nation right now. You know, Raytrell Perry, doing great stuff. And he was a freshman my last year coaching at New London. And he is a top shelf of human being. You know, yeah, he's a great athlete. He's a freak of nature, but he's a great kid. His parents have done a great job with him. They did everything they had to do for him. When they were sending him out to UHAS to get trained, which is not free. When COVID hit Connecticut, they sent their kid out to Trinity Pauling, which I know was not always easy to send your kid away, but they did everything they had to do for him. And Central was one of the few schools that said, we're going to take a shot at this kid because he didn't do a lot of pass blocking at Trinity Pauling. He goes to Central, runs a 4.7 at 300 pounds. He's, you know, did 10. I don't think people understand how strong you have to be to do 10 pull-ups at 300 pounds. He's a freak of nature. Could he play at UConn? Yes. But, Central doesn't have 10 of those guys. But back to the thing with that, again, as I said, UConn's paying some of their players, Central's not. And as you said, the first touchdown that UConn scored, they're in the boundary, they throw a quick out to the field, and it's one-on-one with a 6'3" wide receiver and a 5'10" D-back. And if he gets by him, he's gone. And guess what? He got by him. And they did that a lot. They exploited the bet. But I'll tell you right now, I was really impressed with how well Central ran the ball. I thought, because I know Central lost Ray Trail to Maryland.
Yep.
Their other starting tackle was injured. And their center, I know they lost a center. So I thought for sure they would not have much of an offense that game. And the way they ran the ball, I was impressed. And I think the offensive line showed, and they've won their last 2 games since then. So I'm hoping they're going to be all right.
Yeah, well, this week they're on the road. They're playing up at
Merrimack.
Is Merrimack in the league? If they are, they're a new team.
Yes, they are. They're in the league. And even now New Haven's going to be in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the league is growing. And exciting time. It's great to go back and watch the games and to see how much schools change. My wife and I went up to her school, first time in 34 years. Her dormitory is now a parking lot. Things just, what has happened? The cafeteria is the media center. I mean, so to go back and see these changes are great. And I'm hoping that they can improve, but being a state school, I don't know how much more money we're going to be able to get, especially when UConn's getting everything.
Well, they certainly do focus in on UConn.
Yeah.
But, the last few seasons, the men's basketball and football they have not been undefeated teams, but they've either won or been darn close to winning their league championships.
Yeah.
I haven't broken out much beyond that. The basketball, I think in particular, they win the conference title and then they lose to the low seed.
And that's the tough part about being in a smaller conference. You can win your conference regular season, and if you don't win the tournament, you don't make the tournament, the NCAA tournament. And Pat Sellers, who I went to school with at Central, he's done a great job with them. And at the same time, that's where goes back to this whole thing about school size and money. He's had 2 20-win seasons in a row. When do they come knocking on his door? Hey, somebody wants to pay you more money, and now you're going to have more talent at a bigger school. I know I'm a better driver when I have a better car. That's how it works. And and every coach who's worth his salt is going to think, man, if I had this, I could do this. And that's how it always is. That's why these guys take these leaps and go from college to pro or high school to college, because they think, if I can just get this, if I can do, like in high school, I can't just recruit, though some people do. I can't just recruit what I want. If I go to college, I can recruit what I want. I tell people all the time, I knew exactly what I wanted in an outside, strong side linebacker. And I had to watch him grow up in my house until I got him. It was like, come on, And it was like, and when Mage finally became, the guy he was, it was like, whew. And he just shut down half a field. And it was like, okay, it just works. But I couldn't go out and just recruit that. So imagine going back to what we said earlier about, the portal and all these things now. Hey, this kid can be what we want him to be in 3 years. This kid's already what I want him to be right now. So if we're willing to pay him some money, we get him.
Yeah. Well, that's where because I enjoy, and I have basically since I crossed the stage at New London, but I enjoy following New London athletics.
Yes.
And watching the kids play, and there are times when you're watching certain kids, and I know you talk about the parents and whomever is whispering in their ear that maybe they're a little bit better than they think they are, and whether or not these kids, not that they should set their expectations lower. They should always want to achieve, but not everybody's going to be the next Dick Butkus or Michael Jordan or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. it's or Willie Mays. You've got to kind of, where do I fit in? And is it at Central or maybe Conn College or Mitchell College for that matter? There's two different, we have three Division III schools in New London, and academically they all are very, very different, the students on each of the campuses.
I'll tell you, it's interesting because besides the fact that you refer to Dick Butkus and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, some of these people don't know who those people are. But
well, I'm dating myself.
That's it, I'm teasing, but understanding who you are is important. But like you said, you never want to tell someone not to have a dream, not to shoot for the top. But what I will say is because of the transfer portal, you can go somewhere like Central and you play, you make all conference, you win a league championship, and now everybody's knocking on your door. They're recruiting kids during the handshake line now. People are walking out after, hey man, we'd like to see you here next year. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, well, there was a young man who played at Conn, and when he graduated, and this may have been COVID when they were getting extra time, but I mean, he did a 5th year up at Brandeis, basketball player.
Yeah.
And so he moved up in terms of D2, and after 4 years at Conn. And I tell you, if you watch the D3 schools locally, there's a lot of quality young men and women coming through here, and it's nothing to scoff at.
NESCAC basketball, men's and women's, is incredible. They're winning national championships. So I don't care what division it is. You're going out there, you're playing against everyone in the nation, and you're winning national championships. People don't get it. I mean, again, you might not have 5 guys that are 6'8" and up, but you might have one, and you got a bunch, and everybody now can shoot the 3. If you can't shoot the 3, unfortunately, a lot of kids don't get recruited. You can be a phenomenal athlete, great defender, but if you're a tweener, if you're like, okay, you're not really a center, you're not a big, and you're not a point guard, and you don't shoot the 3, you're just a guy who busts your tail and plays great defense and takes a bunch of charges and all that stuff. You don't maybe get as valued. Everyone loves that player, but college coaches don't recruit that player, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, well, it's basketball maybe more than any other sport. The game has changed so radically. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I don't care to watch high school kids heaving threes, and they do, and they're encouraged to. Coaches tell me, and it's become a dunk and long distance game. Right. And I'll see discussions on a Facebook chat on like Chamberlain. What would Wilt do? And Wilt couldn't shoot free throws.
Whatever Wilt wanted to do, because guys like Wilt will do whatever. Just like Shaq will do whatever you want to do. You're not going to not put a guy like that on the court. But you say, especially basketball. I think all sports. I love just the idea of when you look at football, when we played, quarterback, under center, fullback, tailback, tight end, flanker, receiver. That means 10 of the 11 players were literally right there within the box. So defensively, you can get in there and they're going to run the ball on 1st and 2nd down. If they have to throw it on 3rd, they will. Everybody knew that. Now, the quarterback is now in shotgun. He's now the tailback, like Lamar Jackson. He's a tailback who happens to be able to throw the ball too. But he's a tailback. He's a fast guy in the field. So now he's there. Your fullback doesn't even exist. Now he's a slot receiver. Your running back is here. Your tight end, if there is one in the game, sometimes flexes out. The whole game has changed. And it's all about putting athletes in space and letting them do things they do. And
the rules are also geared to allow that.
Right. And in baseball, same thing. I mean, the guys, Denny Doyle doesn't exist anymore. Now, I'm showing my age, right? Denny Doyle doesn't exist. Freddie Patek doesn't exist anymore. Those little guys who had great glove work, who lay down a bunt from the number 2 spot in the lineup, don't exist anymore. Now, your launch angle and all that stuff, everything is changing. It's about the speed, and even the Sox, what they did, Red Sox, what they did with, going young, and talked earlier about addition by subtraction. Devers, you want to keep chirping this and that. Got to go.
Yep,
Gotta go.
He was a head case it appeared from the outside looking in anyway.
And again, we don't know all the details. He might have legitimate gripe, but he took it outside the locker room, and guess what, bro? You got to go. Not only that, but we got all this young talent coming around. We don't need you being the example of this is how we behave here. So again,
Sox took off after.
And nobody should deal with cancer. Get rid of it. I don't know a single person that had cancer that says, I just want to work around it. They want to get rid of it. But, so all these sports, everything's now about speed, size. You got 6'8" pitchers, 6'5" outfield. That's where we're at.
Yeah, well, all the athletes are much bigger and stronger and faster. I mean, and you can't compare. I hate to say eras because the snapshot could be 5 years, not 20 years.
Right.
You look at videos of Babe Ruth hitting, and just look based on what you see today. I mean, if you can't hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, you can't play big league baseball. I mean, what Ruth was up against would be like batting practice for these guys.
Well, and the other thing with that is pitchers would go 9 innings pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
So you were seeing guys 3 or 4 times in a game. Now, a guy goes 5, 6 innings, and they're bringing in flamethrowers for the 7th, 8th, 9th inning. And so that changes a lot too. That would be one of those things if I was that concerned about it, to do that. How many home runs did Babe Ruth hit from the 6th inning on?
I don't know.
I'm sure it's easily to be found out, but I'm just saying those are the kind of things. And I'm not knocking Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth's family don't come looking for Juan Roman. I'm just saying that, as you said, it just changed. I mean, there's a 7-foot tennis player. I'm like, you kidding me? I think, what was it, at the Open? 7 feet tall. I'm like, you what? How are you not covering the court? I mean, if you have equal ability and you're 7 feet tall, you're going to win that situation. Obviously, he doesn't have equal ability right now because he's not the number 1 player in the world, but he's a pro athlete.
Yeah.
And and maybe the most impressive athlete that I'm looking at right now, and I don't watch any WNBA games. I can't sit down and watch a whole game, not because I don't like women's sports, because obviously my daughter played and I loved watching her play, but I'm just not into it. But Asia Wilson just impresses me with her level of commitment to her body and improving her game. Because I did watch some of the NCAA tournament when she was playing, and she was a taller woman, bigger girl. But what she's done with herself, I've seen her now, and it's like, wow, and she's shooting. They said, I saw something on ESPN watching highlights, they said her 3-point game has evolved and all that. God bless. That's someone who's done more than just say, I'm the tallest kid out here. And so I'm impressed with that greatly.
Well, I don't know how to tell you this, but our time is kind of running short here. So before they cut us off while we're in the middle of a sentence, I want to thank you for carving out
definitely.
some time to share with me on the set, and you're always welcome on.
Hey, I just feel bad that you can't get better quality guests.
I'd like to get you and some other folks on. I think we could have a stellar conversation. I try to see if I can negotiate with the man on the other side of the curtain there to maybe we can extend this program for a little bit and extend the conversation. It's kind of like what Lee has done with some of his stuff there, where he takes on a particular topic and he hones in on that for a particular show.
And and I will say this, Lee, me being involved with Lee is just because he knows me from high school. We played against each other. In football primarily, a little bit in baseball, but he was a far more accomplished baseball player than I ever was. And it was one of those deals where I ended up being on the show a couple times, and if you talk to me long enough, you're going to hear about my faith, because that's the most important thing to me. That's how I want to, raise my family. That's how I want to be that kind of husband, and it's not always easy for me, because I have nuttiness in me. I just try to give up myself and do what the Lord would have me do. But so that's how I kind of got involved with Lee, and he has actually been a great platform, because perhaps it's what some people want to hear.
Yeah, he's got a good audience.
Yeah, and but as I said, when we did have that meeting, I'm like, I got to be the dumbest guy in this room. These people are coming here talking about everything under the sun, but I happen to know what Scripture says. And you know what? I'm not worried about that being wrong. So it's one of those things whereas, you know, I didn't write any of the books in the Bible, but I have read them.
There you go.
You know, and that's it. So I was able to do that.
All right. Well, folks, you've been watching City Focus, and you can also pick the program up on YouTube at any time of your choosing. Once Drew gets it up on YouTube, probably this evening or tomorrow morning, and you'd go to Marty Olsen City Focus, SEC-TV, and you can pick up the program and enjoy at your leisure. And with that, we'll say good night. We'll see you next week. Always a pleasure.
Definitely, Mark. Thank you, bro.